Right now, across India's industrial heartlands, there's a serious storm brewing. Today, we're going to break down this ongoing industrial crisis. It's a topic that connects directly to the very core of your GS papers on economy, society, and governance.
That's right. And this image you're seeing from Noida, well, it's so much more than just another headline. It's really a flashpoint. On one side, you have workers who are simply demanding fair wages, and on the other, you have a police lathi charge. This incident is a symptom, you see, of a much deeper nationwide problem that we really need to understand for the mains exam.
Exactly. And for your preparation, we need to break this down properly. Think of it like building a mains answer, step by step. First, we'll map out the current unrest to get a sense of the sheer scale of the problem. Then, we'll get to the core issues, the real drivers behind it. After that, we'll analyze the state's response. And finally, and this is key, we'll tie it all together for you, showing exactly how this plugs into your UPSC syllabus.
All right, so let's jump into our first section, the current unrest. It's absolutely crucial to grasp that what happened in Noida is not some one-off event. It's part of a much, much larger national pattern.
And look at this map, so to speak. We're talking about Noida and Uttar Pradesh, but also strikes by Samsung workers in Sri Perumbudur, Tamil Nadu, and similar actions in Panipat, Patratu, and Raipur. The key takeaway for you is that this is a pan-India phenomenon. Recognizing this national scale is what will give your answers the analytical depth that the examiners are really looking for.
So what's really at the heart of all this unrest? To score well in your mains, you can't just list these places, right? You have to dig deeper into the root causes. And in this case, there are two big ones: stagnant wages and the very controversial new labor codes.
Okay, let's put some numbers to this. In Noida, the trade unions were asking for a minimum wage increase from around 18,000 rupees to 25,000 rupees a month. Now, why that specific figure? It's a direct response to the rising cost of living. Think about essentials like LPG cylinders. The interim hike that was offered was just not enough to cover basic needs. It's that simple.
And as if that wasn't enough, we have this huge, complicating factor, the new labor codes, which are set to be enforced from late 2025. You have to understand, these codes represent a fundamental shift in the whole employer-employee dynamic. And from a worker's perspective, it's a shift that's causing a lot of anxiety.
Now, pay close attention to this slide. This comparison is absolutely vital for your GS Paper 3 notes. Look at these shifts. The new codes could allow for a 12-hour workday. They decentralize wage floors to the states, which could risk a race to the bottom. And, perhaps most critically, they encourage contract labor. This is a direct hit on job security, a point you must elaborate on when you write about labor reforms.
Okay, so we've seen the protests and their causes. Now, how did the state respond? This is a huge part of the analysis, and it raises some really important questions about governance and civil rights.
This quote right here, this is the heart of the argument from the source material, and it should be the core of your critical analysis. The idea is that labor unrest is not a law and order problem that you can just suppress with force. It's a socioeconomic issue that stems from very real, legitimate grievances.
But what did we actually see happen? The reality on the ground seems to tell a very different story. The Uttar Pradesh Chief Minister, Yogi Adityanath, called the protests a conspiracy. This was then followed by the police lathi charge we saw in that first image. And then, in a move that's pretty much unprecedented, residential societies were asked to bar these workers. It's a textbook example of treating a socioeconomic issue as a security threat.
So what's the implication? Well, the source argues that these actions amount to a serious civil rights infraction. And this is where you can connect it directly to your GS Paper 1 syllabus topics, like social justice. A really strong answer would contrast the state's law and order approach with the fundamental constitutional rights of workers to protest and ask for better conditions.
All right, let's bring it all together. This is probably the most important section for you as an aspirant. How do you use all this in the exam, and what's the path forward?
So here's exactly where this topic fits in your syllabus. For GS Paper 1, this falls right under social empowerment and the problems of urbanization. And for GS Paper 3, it's a classic topic under Indian economy, employment issues, and of course labor reforms. You should be prepared for questions from this area.
Let's imagine a mains question. You could very well see something like this. Critically analyze the impact of the new labor codes on industrial relations and workers' rights in India. Now, for 15 marks, you'd need to discuss both the government's reasoning for the codes and the serious concerns we've talked about, using solid examples like Noida to back up your point.
And don't think this is just for mains. This is prime material for your interview. You might get a situation-based question, something like, as a district magistrate,
How would you balance the need for industrial peace with the workers' constitutional right to protest? This is designed to test your administrative thinking and your grasp of the Constitution. Your answer has to be about prioritizing dialogue over force.
So, when you're writing your conclusion, what's the way forward? The source gives us a really clear three-step solution. First, bring in humane working hours. Second, make sure that labor reform is genuine and balanced. And third, and this is so important, revive tripartite consultation. That means direct talks between the government, employers, and the unions, a system that's been more or less inactive since 2015.
So, at the end of the day, the solutions aren't some big mystery. They're about fairness and recognizing basic rights. The real challenge, and this is a powerful line to end your answer with, is that progress is not being held back by how complex the problem is, but by a lack of political will to actually implement these known solutions. Really internalize this framework, and you'll be in a great position to handle any question on this topic. Keep up the hard work, and we'll see you in the next explainer.